The Kawasaki Versys 1000, everyone. What an awesome motorcycle this is. My first experience on an adventure bike. And you know what? I'm really digging this bike. Massive thank you to Completely Motorbikes for letting me have a go on this motorcycle for you guys. They've got dealerships up and down the UK. Definitely go and check them out if you're looking to buy any new or used motorcycles. I'm sure they do you a great deal. But we're going to keep the intro nice and brief today because it is swelteringly hot. I think the bike was reading 28 degrees just now, so I am sweating. But in terms of the looks, let's just make a little comment here on the looks. I really like the way this bike looks. I think personally it is arguably one of the best looking adventure bikes that you can currently buy right now. Yeah man, I really like it. And of course with that 1000cc engine in there, I mean this thing's got a lot of torque. Alright, but let's go ahead and have a little listen to the soundtrack. Now this bike for me, in the few minutes that I've had her out, it does sound quite subdued. It's not a bad sound, but it's very modest, not quite so hooligan-like. And as always, when I do these motorcycle reviews before I take the bikes that I do, warm them up thoroughly. Not that the bike needs warming up today considering how hot it is, but I am trying to sell these bikes, so I am going to be pushing it as much as I possibly can to really give you the best look at what this motorcycle is like to ride and what it's capable of. But here we go, let's have a little listen. See what I mean? It's a little bit, I don't know, it's not so garish, is it? It's not that obnoxious. Yeah, sounds alright, you know. Another reason why we've got to get moving fairly quickish today is these GoPros really suffer in the heat, and it wouldn't surprise me if it decides to stop recording because it's overheating. This screen here, it does a really good job of deflecting the wind, but I don't think that's really what I want on a day like today. I'm sure there's a way I can lower it, but I'm not going to touch that today, I don't think, for today's ride. But oh man, what a day it is to be doing a ride review. Yeah, 30 degrees, man. Very, very hot. I was originally going to be taking out a 1000 SX today, but they had this Versys ready for demo, and well, I've always been curious about getting on an adventure bike, and honestly it's not been disappointing at all, you know. And even though it's quite a heavy bike, you can really lean it over, probably because it has such a tall seat height, and it is a tall bike. I'm on my tippy toes on either side of the bike when it's at a standstill, and I'm 5'11", 6 foot on a good day. So it is a tall bike, perfect for taller riders, and I mean, first impressions is just how comfy this bike is, honestly. It's a really nice place to be. I mean, it's like sitting in an armchair, this thing. All the weight is on your bum, none on your hands or your feet. Everything is in such a relaxed, chill position. The seat is so squishy and comfy. Oh yeah, man, this is a really nice bike to do long journeys with. I know it's designed like an adventure bike, but I mean, you could do so you could go for a long time on this bike, hours and hours and hours on end, trust me. And you know what, it is surprisingly nimble. I think it has quite a narrow wheelbase considering the bike's height, which I suspect is probably why it feels so nimble. You can really dart it into corners. We have got this heated grips button again, as we saw recently on the H2 SX SE, so you are having to reach a little bit further for the indicators, but something you get used to be honest with you. It's not that bad. Maybe if you have smaller hands, maybe it'll be a little bit tougher, but alright. So ergonomics, I mean, you can't fault this bike whatsoever. It's got that center stand as well for easy chain maintenance and what have you, but this bike is a little bit down on performance. We are going to be going through some specs in a moment, but it is suffering a little bit in terms of horsepower, but it does have a nice amount of torque. And I did hear on the grapevine that this bike is a little bit of a wheelie monster. So we'll see, but as well, the suspension is really tuned for comfort. I mean, okay, this is the stock setup. It is a little bit adjustable, it looks like. Yeah, tiny bit adjustable, not a lot. But let's talk some specs. So this is the 2024 Kawasaki Versys 1000. It's running a 1043cc inline 4-cylinder engine, which is producing, I want to say, around about 120 horsepower at the crank and about 110 newton meters of torque, something like that. 110, 112 newton meters of torque, all whilst weighing in at about 250 odd kilograms or so wet. It's a heavy bike, but I'm telling you right now, it doesn't feel that heavy. If you've been riding bikes for a little while, then you'll be all right with the weight of this thing. The thing I struggled with the most was actually sitting on the bike, getting on the bike. Because it is quite tall and these panniers are kind of in the way a little bit, you are having to really swing your leg over it. Now, I automatically just went on autopilot. I went to my usual spot for 0 to 60 runs, but I found it's quite busy, so instead we're going to go to another spot which is much quieter and we shouldn't have any worries about traffic behind us. But this bike does have a little bit of power. I mean, 0 to 60, we're probably looking between 4 and 5 seconds, maybe over 5 seconds, I guess, because it hasn't got a lot of horsepower, but it is carrying a lot of weight. But again, that torque is honestly really nice. And if you're going to take this bike off-roading, you'd probably want to take it off the sport mode. And maybe, I mean, it might have a mode specific for off-roading. I don't know, we'll have to check that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it did have an off-road mode. But yeah, it's all about first gear really in terms of power. You haven't really got much else after that in second or third. But it is a really nice place to be, man. And I think these bikes are suited towards a very particular audience. You know, people who might be, gents who might be a little bit older, who don't necessarily want a super sport riding position, or maybe even a sport touring riding position. Like I said, you probably do have to be a little bit taller to get on one of these comfortably. And I do find it more comfortable to lean over the seat to put my foot down on the ground. So it is something that I think you'll get used to as you ride the bike, but really good, man. I just got to take a second to catch my breath here, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a shame how warm it is today, because all I can think about right now is trying to catch my breath and trying to cool myself down. But right, we haven't got any traffic behind us, so let's go ahead and do a quick 0 to 60 run. Now, I'm not sure if this bike has got launch control, but here we go. Okay. It is a bit slow on the 0 to 60s, but I don't think I reached top end of first gear. Let's try again. Here we go. Okay. It really dips down on power right at around 10,000 RPM. We'll try one more. Okay. Yeah, after 10,000 RPM, there's a massive dip in power and torque. So really, 8,000 RPM and under is kind of where you want to be on this bike, at least for quick launches, getting off the line. I didn't quite see how fast it could go in first gear. Let's see how far it's geared. Okay, about 56 mile an hour. Not bad, just under 60. Would have been nice if it was geared just a little bit longer so you could get it to 60 in first gear. To me, that would have been ideal, but you know, this bike isn't really designed to be going fast, even though it's got a 1000cc inline 4. It is not tuned to go fast at all. But it has got enough pep. And the thing is as well, I think this is really the only one you should look at. The Versys 650, I think it's going to be missing something, you know. It's going to be a little bit boring. Now, I've not had to go on a Versys 650, but I do know what that 650cc engine feels like to ride. And I mean, I don't know, maybe if it's geared better, then maybe it would be a little bit more fun to ride. But I don't know. I suspect that this is perhaps the best adventure bike to get on Kawasaki's roster if you were looking at one. But I think the Versys 650, you could probably detune that to A2. Something else to consider, I suppose. But yeah, what a fun bike. I really did want to have a go on this because I wanted to know what all the fuss was about regarding adventure bikes, because I never really understood the fascination, why so many people buy them. But I think I'm starting to get it. A little bit like cruiser bikes. I think I'm starting to understand why people buy these bikes. I'll tell you what, actually, speaking of cruiser bikes, actually, I had to go on a Vulcan 650S a while ago now, and there's me talking smack about the Versys 650. Well, if it is tuned similar to how the Vulcan was tuned, then actually it might be more fun than I thought. Yeah, these things, these hand wind protectors, good in the winter, not so great in the summer. There is room for a top box. I think it's got a top box mount already, the Versys. I'm not sure if it comes with that from stock or if that's an accessory, an add-on package. But yeah, one of the few bikes I think now on Kawasaki's roster where you can fit panniers and a top box. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this bike. Not built for a lot of power at all. It does wheelie in first gear. Second gear, I'm sure you could probably get it to wheelie as well in the power band, but naturally, because you are sitting quite tall, it's going to be a little bit easier to wheelie. I just wish it did have a little bit more power, to be honest with you. A little bit more, just a little bit, for street riding, not for off-roading, but it seriously does surprise me how far you can lean this bike over, and lean it over confidently as well, considering how top heavy this is. See if we can overtake this bus. Shouldn't be too difficult for this bike. Yeah man, it's a nice place to be. Now price wise, forgive me, I didn't look up beforehand what the price was of this bike. Yeah, not a lot of power in third gear there, to be honest with you. But I suspect they're around about 10, 11, 12,000 pounds or thereabouts. I don't know what adventure bikes are going for these days, but that does seem quite reasonable for one of these bikes. If it is around about that 10 grand mark. Pretty good, and the fact that you can stick so much kit on this bike for storage, you can get a tank bag easy. You got the panniers there, you can buy aftermarket ones if you wanted to. Top box and aftermarket top box, I'm sure. You got that power outlet there as well for your phone, your sat nav, really good, lots of space to mount your phone. Yeah, pretty neat. It's a shame I am seeing lots of riders in their t-shirts, and I know I'm guilty of that myself, but I don't think today is one of those days where you have to be wearing a t-shirt. If you're over 30 degrees and the wind isn't that breezy, it's not that cold, then yeah, fair enough. But you know, if I didn't have to get off the bike and start shooting intros and things and make myself tired going to and from cameras and things, I think, you know, I would have been alright today with my leathers and my gloves. Oh, what more else is there to say about the Versys 1000? This screen is doing a lot for wind deflection. It really is. It wouldn't surprise me if the mic is going to get picked up really clearly today because of the lack of wind. I'm getting a little bit of wind, so it is a little bit nice on my face with the heat, but yeah, wind protection on this is really good. It wouldn't surprise me if that's probably why it struggles a little bit, because of its lack of aerodynamics, should I say. That might be why it struggles after you get to about 50 mile an hour. It doesn't really have a lot of power after 50 mile an hour. You've got the black and white screen, or the white and black screen. I think I prefer the white and black, you know. I think it's a little bit easier to read. Woo! Oh, really struggling to catch my breath. You know, when the air is like really dry and you're tired, or you've been huffing around a little bit. Woo! Yeah. Struggling to get my words out today, catching my breath. Yeah, it does wheelie a little bit. If I turn off the traction control, this thing would be flying up off the ground. I have no doubt. Fantastic bike, man. I really dig it. And if it is around about that £10,000 mark, really worth the money. And Kawasaki have been making the Versys bikes for such a long time now. I mean, it's got to be coming up to 10 years. So it is a tried and tested platform. I mean, not a lot has changed, but if it works and it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Woo! Really sorry guys if we end up cutting this ride review a little bit shorter today. One thing I do want to mention is the gear lever seems a little bit squishy. When you're down in first gear, you can actually push it down further, but it won't go down any further than first gear, of course. But yeah, it's like spongy. It feels a little bit spongy. There might be a design reason for that. I'm not sure, but just one of those things that I want to point out. If it's a feature and I don't understand it because I'm not an adventure bike rider, then fair enough. Let me know down in the comment section below why it may have a spongy gear selector. But really good, man, and I could ride this bike for hours if I shut my mouth and caught my breath a little bit. Yeah, I think I'd be chilling on this bike, seriously. Really comfy, perhaps the most comfortable bike I've ever ridden. Yeah, no word of a lie. I've ridden a lot of comfy bikes, and this is perhaps one of the most comfortable. One thing is maybe that they could have added to the bike is like a USB socket. I know why they use a cigarette lighter port, because blimey, potholes. Because it is universal now for car travel, so you probably already have a car adapter, cigarette lighter in your car. Quite easy to put on the bike that way. Testing the pickup from fourth gear, there's not a lot there, to be perfectly frank with you. I think once you get up to 70 mile an hour, you're in third or fourth gear. When you pull on that throttle, it does have a slight jerk to begin with, but you can settle into it easily enough, I think. Alright, well, let's pull over. Let's have a little listen to the Versys 1000 one last time today. I am cutting it a little bit short, but I'm not gonna lie, I am struggling. Here we go, let's have a little listen one last time. Tell you what, let's not be unfair to the bike. In those higher end RPMs, it does sound nice, to be fair to you guys. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun today. Massive thank you again to Completely Motorbikes for letting me have a go on this wicked bike for you guys. Heavily recommend it if you are an adventure bike rider, and I'm looking forward to having a go on more of these adventure bikes in the near future. I've got my eyes on an Africa Twin because recently Completely Motorbikes have opened up a Honda garage right in the same area, so hopefully I'll get to go have a go on that in the near future. But thank you ever so much for watching this ride review today. Let me know what you think down in the comment section of this awesome motorcycle, and as always, leave that like, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell. I will catch you all in the next video. Everyone take care, ride safe.